Alright, hello anyone watching on the second channel. Just gonna share this on my socials quick and then we'll get into stuff. Let me just switch to my chat tab. Okay, there we go. Get my live chat up. Sorry, one sec. That's better. Sorry, I'm just gonna tweet about streaming now about Musk and UK Fash. Link. There we go. Okay, I tweeted it. And let me Instagram it quick as well. Right. Streaming now about Musk and Fash Britain. So some people responded to me on Twitter when I said Britain is going to become fascist. They're like, isn't it already fascist? And like, I mean, if we're talking about like straight up fascist, then obviously I'd say no. It's not like a totalitarian fascist system. I would say at the moment it's not even an authoritarian system, like conventional one, like maybe Hungary or even Poland, but it's headed that way. So I understand why people say it, but I still think we shouldn't. Where the fuck's this going? So I'm trying to link myself on Instagram, make a little sticker. Oh, there we go. Streaming now about Musk and Fash Britain. Okay. All right, that's done. And put my playlist on. Hey everyone, see some of you in the chat already. Enjoyed the latest video. Thanks so much. I really had fun making that one. What was one of the criticisms? Well, some people were clicking on it thinking I was saying what I said in the title was a bad thing. Like, it's bad that anti-American or something. And I was like, no, I'm saying, like, I agree with them. Like, I don't really, I don't have no problem with Kojima and, oh shit, wait. I got a different setting on, one sec. Yeah, I have no problem with Kojima and Miyazaki not liking America. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a fun one to make. A lot of work though. I like really focused because I eventually ran really late. So I was like, I started editing at 1:30 and I was like, okay, get this rendered we'll start rendering at 4ish. So started rendering at 4:40. Then made the thumbnail, then uploaded about 6:30. I've been uploading mad consistently. Yeah, thanks, Alex. I to be honest, it's been the same as it has been over the last year or so. Like 3 videos a week, 2 live streams at least a week. So always consistent. The only thing annoying me at the moment is the sub. It feels like every sub gained like takes a piece of my soul or something. Like there are times when you're doing YouTube, it feels a lot worse than normal. There's a time when you're doing YouTube when growing your subscribers is just the biggest like hassle. There's some days like, especially in Christmas time or Christmas time last year for me, it's just like crazy. Like every time you look at your studio, you just got like 100 or 200 new subs. But then there's times like last couple of months for me, it's like, oh, it just feels like it's such a grind to get any subs. Because I had the goal at the start of this year, I wrote it down somewhere. I want to get 100k subs by the end of the year. And I'm still hopeful I can get there, but it's April now, so we're 4 months in nearly, and it just feels like the momentum is just, there's no momentum in my sub growth. Although some videos do really well and everything, and I enjoy making them, I can't complain too much because YouTube's my job and everything. But I'm obsessed with getting 100k subs. But then I keep telling myself, maybe don't get so hung up on it, because once I get 100k, then what's next? And to be honest, there isn't anything next, because I'm never going to hit pretty much 200k. I'm definitely never going to hit like 500, never going to hit 1 million. So 100 is like my goal. I just want it to happen sooner rather than later so I can relax a bit more. So reading some more stuff. Sigma Grind, yep, for sure. So reading some more stuff. Favorite pot noodle. I mean, I don't eat pot noodles so much. There's this thing in Spain. I don't know if it's other European places called Yatek something noodles, and the Oriental flavor of that is really good. I ate loads of them in Spain. Watching the video convinced me Miyazaki started making anime to destroy American revenge for World War II. Well, the thing is, Miyazaki doesn't like Imperial Japan, which is something people kept saying. It's like one of the comments I saw a fair bit was like, oh well, if America's so bad, Imperial Japan was way worse, and it's like, well, yeah, Miyazaki doesn't like that, and Japanese nationalists hate him, so. You're getting so many upvotes from BreadTube. Yeah, BreadTube, r/BreadTube is my city. It always has been. Because I told everyone to go post their stuff there as well. Alright, so yeah, today we'll see how long we're gonna go for. Today I want to talk about this Elon Musk stuff, and then talk about the UK putting in this new system. Basically that they're gonna deport refugees to Rwanda. Sorry, that it's a really annoying thing for me because I'm getting confused. I pronounce TH as F, Rwanda, but I think I also struggle Rwanda. I think I also struggle with an R and W next to each other as well. Yeah, the UK has been doing that for a long time. Windrush scandal. Is this like the hedonistic treadmill, like the more you want them? No, it's not even that. It's not like the more I get, the more I want. It's literally just like, well, 100k, you get that nice plaque, and then you get another plaque for 1 million. And there's no in between. So I want the 100k plaque to be really legit. 72 obviously is a lot. And if you told me last year I'd be on 72 this time next year, I'd be happy. But at the same time, I don't know, the momentum just a bit stalled. And I just don't know how to fix it. Like, I make what I want, and I try and make it like appealing to like more people, but I don't know. Smith Black, thanks so much for $5. I'm glad you're a drama-free person. Twitch pool has been a mess of drama lately, and they're honestly reminding me of Keemstar now. Yeah, I went and had a look at Destiny's channel today because someone posted a screenshot of him debating that Haas. I don't even know, is he what country is he even from? But he's just like really pro Russia. Haas and Nick Fuentes, and I'm like, I thought it was photoshopped. Like I thought it was fake. So, and of course it's real. So yeah, for me personally, I've said on this channel like a lot. I've always tried to stay out of the drama, and I have failed sometimes in getting personally. I don't get involved too much, but some idiots like. I don't even know who the fuck this guy is really. He's just like online on Twitter. I've muted him, like called Rational Disconnect or something. Calling me out the other day, and then I responded, and then I just told Hunter Avalon to like shut the fuck up the other day as well. And I shouldn't have done that. And like I try and keep myself drama free and not really engaged in it. Sometimes it's hard, but I have, which has been really great for not engaging. I have muted so many left-wing Twitch streamers and YouTubers, even the ones who are mutuals. I've muted a load of them because I just don't even want to know what's going on and I don't want to see it. And yeah, Twitch politics and that debate culture has always been like a bit of a cesspool. And the thing is, I don't even know. One of my followers tweeted, it would be amazing to see the Kavernacle debate this guy, and he wasn't like a big Twitch streamer at all or a big YouTuber, but he was like a massive liberal, like unironically pro-American, says the Iraq war like liberated Iraq from fascism and shit like that. Really like unhinged liberal. And I was thinking like I would back myself even in the format of the debate to beat this guy's arguments, right? Because I'm confident I would be good in debates. But the problem is, I asked myself when I read that tweet, not that I would ever agree to it, I said, what would the purpose of this conversation be, right? Like, I looked at that guy's Twitter account, and I was like, this guy is not going to change through a conversation with me. Anyone who believes what this guy believes will not like what I have to say, right? And then everyone in my audience, if you look at this guy's account, you would be like, I do not want to, you would never ever agree with his arguments on most things, right? So then what is the point in me and him having a conversation or like a debate, like something a bit more hostile? There isn't any point apart from spectacle. Like the only reason we would do that is for entertainment. And I mean, I guess that's fair enough as a form of entertainment, but I think the problem with the like online debate bros is they treat it as something a lot more than that, and in essence, it does become entertainment. And it's one thing to debate positions like, I don't know, pro NATO, anti NATO, pro American, anti American, but what the stuff they debate often is like they're debating like really in detailed things about transgender rights, and it's like a lot of these people who will debate this will not be transgender, or they'll debate stuff about African Americans for this spectacle, and pretty much none of them in these debates often are African American. And it's like, so you're just taking these really serious issues, and the only thing you're doing is making them a spectacle, and you're not going to change anyone's mind. Pretty much, I know there are some people. I made a whole video about like the relevancy of debate bros. Like people say early Vosh, when he used to debate like a lot of right wing types, was helpful for them. But even he doesn't really do that anymore. He just does like, which is fine, like his own YouTube content. But then like someone like Destiny, I don't know, I go on his channel and it's just such a drama farm. And these guys like they don't have to, but it's not something I'm ever interested in, because I ask myself, like confrontations between like E tier E celebs, it's just like a blood sport in the end of the day. Like you're rooting for your side, you're rooting for your like favorite creator, and I just don't really have much interest in that, and I never really have, despite the fact I think I would be fine at it. Like I'm not someone who will shy away from a debate in real life. I'm not someone who feels like I don't know what I'm talking about, because I think I know what I'm talking about in most instances. But yeah, debate bro culture, it's just a bit toxic, and then I found it really hyper masculine as well, and obviously like a lot of it often delves into some forms of misogyny and just really toxic things. Like a lot of them defending using slurs and shit like that. Like I just don't want to really be associated with it. And also like the parasocialness of it. I really don't want that with my audience, and I find it hugely embarrassing. And the thing is, this is not even their fault, really, because it's about the parasocial nature of being a streamer. But people who like legit identify with Vosh and Hassan and Destiny as if they're like political theorists, I think it's hugely embarrassing. Like literally in their Twitter bios describing their politics after Twitch streamers, like they're Lenin or Karl Marx and stuff. And I'm like, with my audience specifically, and the 100 of you watching me right now, it's like I don't want any of you to say that you get most of your political views from me. Like I think that's insane. A lot of you will agree with my positions on a lot of stuff, and I might have even influenced your own politics to some degree. But if you go around defending like, well, this doesn't really happen because I'm not engaged in debate bro culture, so I don't really get into drama much. But like, I wouldn't want people going around defending every little thing I do, even if it's objectively really shitty. And I'd be mortified if people started basing their politics specifically and like primarily on my politics, like they do with like Destiny, Vosh, and Hassan. All different degrees. I see it actually a bit more with Vosh than I do with the others, but I see it with all of them. And it's like the parasocialness is just so bizarre. Like the way these people speak about these creators is just the most insane thing to me. Like when I go on these subreddits and read about and read their fans, and it's not just one of them, I just do not understand it. And maybe I don't, Lewis, because I don't have that relationship with any creator myself. But I really hope that no people feel that way about me. Who knows? And I find it embarrassing because at the end of the day, you guys follow me primarily because you like my videos, right? It's not because we're best friends. It's not because I've had a personal conversation with everyone, or we even would get on in real life or anything. It's because you primarily like my content and agree with my politics to some degree. But with debate bros and these Twitch streamers, it feels like all these people think they're basically some sort of like have some sort of relationship with the creator. And I've said this before. I guarantee, not that this is probably relevant to anyone watching right now, but I'd say to people who are like real massive fans of these people, I'd say those creators like do not want to meet you. And if you met them in real life, they'd probably be very polite, but they wouldn't want to be friends with you, pretty much under any circumstances. And I think it's like, for me personally, like as much as I love like my followers and subscribers and everything, I'm like really really picky about who I become friends with. So if like I ever met people in real life, I'm sure we'd have like a lovely conversation. And you know, I'd be all polite, and I'd probably enjoy talking to anyone. But at the end of the day, for me personally, who I'm going to spend my time with, I'm really really specific about it. And I'm really busy, so I don't have a lot of time in my own life. So I'm very, you know, there's some people in my life. I was actually talking about this the other day because I'm invited to this guy's wedding, who I haven't seen in 3 years, and I don't really have much interest in continuing our friendship, because he just doesn't bother much. And I'm just saying, like, I'll go to the wedding, and that's it. Like, I'm not even probably going to talk to him again after that. But that's the thing. I think when people, especially people who regularly watch these people, maybe get their messages responded to by the creator, they think that there's some investment on both sides in the relationship, and there really isn't. So it's something like I never, and you know, I'm live streaming right now and talking to, you know, a chat of people that obviously I'm not actually physically talking to, but I just think it's like a really weird, weird phenomenon. It's not exclusive to politics, but I feel it gets more toxic when you start trying to defend someone's political positions, despite the fact that like they even go against this person's self-described politics. So like Destiny, for example, right? I had some Destiny guy. Someone has sent me this. He was posting my stuff on the Vosh subreddit and saying loads of shit about me, and I just said to him like, dude, like you simp for a guy who follows 6 people on Twitter. One of them is Lauren Southern, who pretends to be a reformed Nazi, but literally platforms South African Nazis on her channel. And it's like, and you're like lecturing me about my politics and stuff. And then he somehow he came back at me and he's like, well, Destiny just likes to talk to everyone, just, you know, regardless of their politics. You're just being a hater or some shit like that. I've had other things like that as well. It's like, well, Destiny's meant to be like a liberal. Okay, with leftists, we do think liberals and fascists are quite similar. But in theory, don't liberals hate fascists? I thought they did. Obviously not. And even with like, there's loads of other stuff, like people calling themselves libertarian socialists, but simping for nation states and stuff. Like, the Japanese arco-communist. Thanks so much for the 500. Is it yen? Debate is lousy at changing minds anyway, thanks to a psychological phenomenon known as the backfire effect. I haven't heard of the backfire effect. What is that? Like, some people have said that debate has been good at changing their mind, and obviously, like, people love Hunter Avalon because, like, I literally have a guy harassing me on Twitter right now under every tweet, because I told Hunter Avalon to shut up talking about he was saying something, I don't even remember what the drama was. It was like that Cat Black YouTuber, and she was talking about, I think she said, I would rather listen to Candace Owens than a white liberal about the experience of a black person in America. And Hunter Avalon said something about it, and I said, dude, you literally used to be a Nazi like 2 and a bit years ago. I'd maybe sit this one out. And then this guy is like absolutely unhinged by me saying that, and he just won't leave me alone on Twitter because he loves Vosh, and because of Vosh's relationship with changing Hunter Avalon from a right winger to a centrist lib, he's defending Hunter Avalon against me. And he brings up the fact that, oh, actually, I'll talk about this a bit more. He brings up the fact that because I voted for a conservative candidate like one time when I was like 18 years old, and he brings it up under every tweet, and I'm like, dude, I literally made a video about this. Like, I'm not hiding it. I've made it. If you guys are interested, type in Kavernacle, my political evolution. I literally talked about, this is when I was 23. I literally talked about how I went from being a contrarian guy who loved Bernie Sanders and Che Guevara, but voted for a conservative candidate, to someone who's like unapologetically socialist and stuff. But like, and I'm like, you're mad at he was blaming stuff in the UK on me as well. And I was like, you're mad at me for doing this one thing in 2015. Then the guy you're defending was literally a fucking Nazi in like 2019. Like, are you serious? Uphold Kavernacle fort. Yeah, Voshai. That's what I've been seeing actually. Thanks for reminding me. Sig, yeah, thanks for saying that. I think a lot of people commented on my J.K. Rowling video going after the Humanist Report and Vosh, because Vosh's argument was J.K. Rowling's transphobia. Most people do not agree with it on like the lib left. It's just the far right who love it. And I was making the point that in the US, in terms of the Democrats, most Democrats will at least pay lip service to trans rights, like Joe Biden. That's not the same in the UK. A lot of Labour and lib conservatives or more centrist conservatives will attack trans rights. And it's more of a liberal feminist thing in the UK to hate transgender people, whereas that's not the same in the US. Oh, also one other thing, I've been on one debate panel when I had like 10k subs. Not even like the nerdy way about politics, but the vibe on the panel was one of the nerdiest vibes I've ever experienced in my life. Again, I'm not hating like nerd culture. Like, look at my fucking wall, and I'm like a political YouTuber. But I was on this panel, and I was like, God, like, this is just the nerdiest shit ever. Like, it's literally like I never took debate classes or was in debate club in school, whatever. It felt like I was in debate club, but this wasn't meant to be like a hostile debate stream. It was just meant to be a conversation. I don't even remember what it was about specifically. And the thing is, what I hate more than anything is wasting my time. And I've been on I think I've been on 3 panel shows since I started YouTube, none recently. And I've only felt one time I wasn't wasting my time. The other 2, I felt like I was completely wasting my time. Like, I was like, why the fuck am I even here? Because the problem is, with some of these panel stuff, especially when there's like 9 people or some shit. Because I was new to this debate thing, I was under the impression they wanted me there because they wanted my perspective or like me as a different voice in this debate thing. But the problem was they basically just wanted me to fill a chair. So in that way, they don't actually care what you have to say. So when you try and talk, you feel like you're just annoying people, especially someone like me, because I get in my head a bit with this stuff, and I feel like I'm talking too much. Where I went on a panel with the Humanist Report last May or June with a great like group of people, and even though I spoke a fair bit, but a lot of the time I didn't speak. It was like for 2.5 hours, and I didn't feel like I was wasting my time because it felt like it was a nice conversation, people I liked listening to and stuff, and it wasn't not a waste of my fucking time. But like the other 2 times of my experiences, it is a waste of time. And I've been asked to debate Destiny. I've been asked to debate Dylan Burns and shit. And I just said like no. I'm like, I don't want to. Is that a good enough reason not to do it? I just don't want to talk to you, and I have no interest in debating this issue with you because the way I always say this, because Amazing Atheist, someone said I should debate as well because he reacted to my video on him. I always say this is that if you put videos out in public, I'm allowed to criticize them without that being an invitation for me and you to get into some sort of online debate or online drama. Like, I criticized Dylan Burns as part of a video on Taiwan. I criticized the Amazing Atheist as just a general video on him. And David Packman's another one. And there's a couple other people I've made videos on. But in my mind, it's like, you put all that content on YouTube, you have YouTube comments. And it's no different me making a video on it. I don't want to debate you about this shit. Hunter Avlon's another one as well. But for some reason, it's like, this is in my head, this is what it is. when someone with like a big audience, or like a fairly big audience like me, makes a video on someone, you want to defend yourself and you want to respond, and the way to make yourself feel good is confront the person physically and try and make him take back his points, or at least try and confront him to kind of make it look like they were wrong about it. That's generally what I think a lot of debates comes down to. Let me read some comments. Yeah, bamboozle, that's good as well, because obviously you guys know I have a history degree and I absolutely love history. So if you are learning anything about history on my channel, then I'm really happy. So Japanese arco-communist saying the backfire effect is a psychological phenomenon that makes a person double down on their ideology when presented with evidence that contradicts them. So it's like if you're just getting super defensive. So it's like if I say, I don't know, the Earth is flat, and then I get in a debate with someone who's trying to prove me wrong. Maybe it's an ego thing. I haven't heard of that before, but it is interesting. Henry, thanks so much for $5. Thanks for your videos. They are always great, and I get a lot out of them. Henry, thank you so much for leaving a super chat just to say a nice thing. That's really, really kind of you. Follow-up question. Or just off the top of your head, what has been one of the videos you like more that I've made? But yeah, really, really appreciate that, man. Thanks so much. Second thoughts, Hakeem. Yeah, the people you mentioned. The thing is, the problem with me being outside leftist drama, and also just being busy, I don't watch much leftist YouTube. If I'm being honest, the only left-wing YouTube, moderately left-wing YouTube I watch is the Young Turks, but that's mainly for the news coverage, because I love keeping up to date on American politics. So I just stick that on while I'm doing stuff sometimes, or like when I'm making a thumbnail on YouTube. Oh, disgusting skin in my coffee. Like like coffee skin, not like an actual skin. Other than that, not too many leftists I actually watch. I watch a streamer called Amy C3, and we're actually going to be collabing on Sunday. But I just put her on when I'm editing a lot. So just reading some more stuff. What would we call ourselves if we were Voshite level simps for Cav? I like. Sorry, it just went down a bit. Cava. What did you say? Oh shit, where'd it go? What would it? Sorry, I was just about to read the end of that comment. Shit. What would we? It had like a Dark Souls picture. Oh fuck, where is this? Sorry, I was literally reading out your comment and now it's gone. Camel, that's your name, Camel. One sec. Shit, I've lost it. Oh, Camel, I'm so sorry. I was reading out your comment and now it's fucking gone. So yeah, I don't know what we'd call Kavernacle followers. Yeah, Sophie from Mars is good. Their video on The Last of Us, I really liked. Coffee is good all the time. Hey, Kennedy. Enjoyed the Coney 2012 one. I think about it all the time. Thanks, Henry. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. Coney 2012 was fucking wild. It was fun to look back at it because I really hadn't thought much about. I never really went in detail into it when I was younger, so coffee at 1 a.m. Yeah, I'm gonna stay up and try and play some Horizon when I'm done. I need to get out early for a haircut because my hair is absolutely mental, and I also got to research for a video tomorrow. I don't know what I'm gonna do it on, and then I got to record the video, edit the video, upload the video. So got a fun day. I actually, I don't know if anyone. Okay, most people, and I get it because I used to work, obviously full time, but just in general, when you've got like the next day, and you have to you know everything you're going to do that day is something you don't want to do, right? So tomorrow for me it's go walk to get a haircut, come back, exercise, then research a video, record a video, stay up all night editing the video, then go to bed, right? That's my day for tomorrow. I don't want to do any of that. So what happens is I just start to really procrastinate bad, as long as I get it all done, but then I could get it done way more efficiently, but then I'm like, it's going to take up most of my day anyway, so why do it efficiently? I don't know if anyone else does that as well. Bomber Fox, thanks so much for the $10 super chat. Really, really nice of you. Bomber Fox saying, I feel like another problem with debate bro culture is you get so caught up in reputation that people will goad you into debating people that make you personally sick just so you don't lose. Yeah, Bomber Fox, I feel that is a problem. It's just like you don't want to engage with someone, but then I've had this before. It's like, well, what are you a coward? Like, you don't want to defend your positions, so you must not really believe in that strongly. Like, you can say it all in a video form, but you don't want to actually engage in a debate with them. Like, I hate this shit. I get this sometimes. But yeah, totally. I don't know what examples you're thinking of, Bomber Fox. Thoughts Line. The only Thoughts Line video I remember watching is their one on police, which I thought was good. Debate streams make me stressed out. Yeah, it's just too cringe. I get secondhand cringe too bad. What is my opinion on the Easter Rising? Well, Gelatin Skeleton, my relative, actually planned the Easter Rising and got executed for it. So, yeah, my relative was called Shaw McDiarmada. He had polio, so he couldn't fight properly, but he planned it and he signed the Irish Proclamation, which is like the Irish Declaration of Independence. So one of the main people involved. There's a street named after him in Dublin. But yeah, it was sick. I mean, yeah, I support like socialist-leaning revolutions against colonialism. Sadly, it failed, but obviously inspired the Irish War of Independence, which won. Sadly, turned into the Irish Civil War, and now we have Ireland as it is today, which is a horrible oligarchy, just like most Western countries. Kavernacle. So what's that inspired by? Kavernacleist. Kavernacleist? Oh, okay, I get it now. Kavernacleist. I was reading it wrong. The calves. Cavernuckles. Cavcucks. So reading some more stuff. Oh, cool. Camel saying my wife is also a watcher and is a big Miyazaki fan. She was pumped as fuck for the video. That's awesome. I'm glad people enjoyed that one. Also, some people were criticizing me for not watching Miyazaki films, and I'm like, I did say at the start I was gonna take a creator I know loads about versus one I don't know much about. The cancelers, yeah. A Cavcock, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Vantabay. I'll get it. I'm gonna show you. I'll read it out on Twitter for you. I tweeted this the other day. So there's a video you guys can all go watch. It's about my political evolution. I might as well just regurgitate it here before we talk about some serious topics. Oh, here it is. All right, so is this tweet unavailable, or did I just mute the guy? Yeah, this fucking guy is like just fucking harassing me about my old politics. So yeah, basically, there's a rumor going around with this one guy. He's saying I voted for Brexit. I never voted for Brexit. I voted against Brexit. So I'll read this tweet thread out for you quick. I never voted for Brexit. Brexit's what shattered my lib beliefs and sent me down the path of becoming a proper leftist. But yes, I did vote Tory once. My local candidate was a doctor who worked in Gaza versus someone who worked in the Tory government, which I'm not trying to hide. I literally have made a video about it. I was a naive lib. What can I say? And if you want to go watch, there is a video, My Political Evolution. Type in Kavernacle, My Political Evolution. I was a very weird person politically. I loved Bernie Sanders and Che Guevara when I was 19, but voted Tory. I loved history and politics, and I think sometimes loving UK influenced academic history can give you a weird political views, even if you have tendencies to the left. So what I mean by this is like when you're like smart as a young person and you feel like you're like smarter than other people. Like I've always been like love my history. Like I was like one of the best in my school who did like higher histories, like for history and stuff like that. In my like final year of my grades, like I think I got like one of the highest on the final exam for it and stuff. Like I always loved history, but I think sometimes when you love history so much, and history specifically, and I actually watched the political evolution video back, and I said I knew all the facts through the history, I just didn't have the ideology to match the fact. And I said through my doing a master's degree where you learn about like political ideologies like communism and socialism a bit more, it helped me contextualize the facts in a way that made me a left-wing person. But when you just love history itself and people are being like, you feel like left-wing people, this is when I used to be like more lib, left-wing people are just like emotionally reactionary, for example, and you're like, they don't know the history, because a lot of people when I was growing up were like really left-wing, but they didn't really know the history of things, but they would just be left-wing automatically, which is a good thing, obviously. But in my mind, I'm like, you're only thinking that because you don't know any better. And if you knew the history, so like, because I love history so much, I would be like, I'd think the ways, it's in my lib days, it's like the way to do international relations and politics is like more, you know, Western centric, pro-NATO, pro-US foreign policy, in a not US foreign policy, but like I would think that maybe like the West is better than China and Russia and things like that. Because I thought like that's just the way the world worked, and I thought like that status quo was a good thing based on history, for example. And like I guess I was a bit naive as well, because you learn a lot of the horrors of other countries and the problems of other countries like China or the Soviet Union. You don't learn so much about America. Like I'm convinced if I had been taught the Vietnam War instead of Mao's China when I was 16, I would have become a left-wing person way younger. But it's because of what you're taught. Like I remember actually saying this. I said communism sounds nice in theory, but how are you going to get that to work in like 2013, 2014 or something like that? I just don't think you can. Like it's just, you know, I would be like a lib in like my beliefs, but then that's, and especially, which I'll get onto, I was also an atheist, so even things like Israel-Palestine, I'd side with Israel because back then, this is when I'm like 19, 26 now by the way, I thought religion was the main problem in the world and subscribed to the Sam Harris, I don't support religious states like Israel, but Hamas are more fanatical than average Israelis, so they are better. So basically, Sam Harris has this view that like, while he disagrees with Israel's like existence fundamentally, he does not, if he has to pick between the Palestinians and Israel, he'll pick Israel because there's Palestinians in his view are more fanatical, and obviously he hates Islam more than Christianity and Judaism. So I was also an atheist, and the thing is, if you even told me back then that capitalism was a bigger problem in the world than religion, 19-year-old me would never accept that. And the thing is, I'm trying to think, did I even used to think about capitalism? Like, really? Like, did I just... Because the thing is, the problem with capitalism is you just accept it as the status quo. Like, you accept it as, like, normal. Like, it's just human nature, you're told it. Like, capitalism is just the default state of humanity. Because you're not told about what capitalism really is. Like, for a lot of us growing up, like, capitalism is just, like, buying, selling money. Like, that's what capitalism is to us. But that's not what capitalism is. Like, markets and like, local markets, that's capitalism. But it's not capitalism. So I think like that really influenced me. And also when you're someone, I'm not like blowing my like own horn here, but like someone who is like smarter than people because you go out of the way to learn about stuff like history and religion, you also kind of feel like a bit isolated and you kind of want to be that contrarian a bit more. So like saying stuff like about Islam or religion, especially someone who is raised religious as well, it feels like you have discovered something that people haven't woken up to yet. At least that's what I thought like. So gone a bit further. The political climate was also different back then, especially for someone young and naive like me. David Cameron was trying to be the heir to Blair and put a more centrist face on the Tories. Remember, David Cameron also like legalised gay marriage, despite most of the Tories voting against it. I'm just saying that because there is no way, I don't think I was a bad person then, but as naive as I was, there is no way a 19-year-old me, if he was around today in 2022, he would not vote for the Tories. He would hate the Tories. I would hate Boris Johnson. I know 19-year-old me, because I did hate Boris Johnson, even though he was the fucking mayor back then. 19-year-old me would absolutely hate the Tories right now, because because 20-year-old me was radicalized by Brexit. So like I said, the xenophobic Brexit project really made me realize good liberal UK was a myth. So the main thing for Brexit for me, I don't know how many of you are from the UK, the main thing from Brexit for me, I used to be convinced that Britain, while flawed, had redeeming factors. Like, it was tolerant, it was diverse, it was like open for refugees and migrants and LGBT people. Again, naive, good liberal UK. But the thing with the Brexit project was, even though there are like left-wing economic arguments to be made made for Brexit, there was no economic argument made for Brexit in the campaign. I remember this specifically. It was just all about xenophobia. And one of the main things I heard on the radio, paid for by the government, not the government, paid for by Vote Leave, was one of the main points: Turkey is going to join the EU soon. And the connotation is, if Turkey joins the EU, 100 million Muslims might have access easily to the UK. That was literally the implied threat of Brexit, right? Despite the fact that they did a survey and they said it would take about 100 plus years for Turkey to meet the necessary criteria to join the EU. And you know, we see with the Ukraine stuff, I don't know how true it is that they could just ignore some of this stuff, but literally Turkey was not going to join the EU, and it 100% never is going to join the EU at this point. But that was the type of stuff you heard on the radio, and then you'd get maps on propaganda. It would show Turkey's position to Syria and Iraq, and it'd be like, the implied threat would be, well, if Turkey joins the EU, not only are you getting 100 million Muslim Turks coming to the UK, you're also getting ISIS going through Turkey, easily getting to the UK. Like, literally, it was so on the surface racist, and it was primarily racist. Like, I'm not saying everyone who was duped by Brexit is like in the KKK or some shit, but like, if you were around for Brexit, you will know that the main argument for leaving was xenophobia against Polish people, Romanians, and primarily Muslims. So that's 2016. I was 20 years old when this happened. So Brexit made me reevaluate a lot politically. I was only 20, and just to see a campaign driven largely by racism win radicalized me a lot. Being the contrarian I was, I still didn't want to describe myself as a leftist, but by the end of 2017, I pretty much felt comfortable enough doing this in some ways. I'd say early 2019 was when I developed the exact same beliefs I have today. And you can watch my video about my political evolution. I watched it the other day. I think I sound pretty much the same as I do now. So yes, there you have it. Voted Tory in 2015, voted against Brexit in 2016, voted for a Labour London mayor in 2016, voted anti-Tory in 2017, voted anti-Tory in 2019, voted Green Party in the EU elections. There is my voting record.
The Communist Party of
Can you
Great
hear this?
Britain,
So this is just
as
me talking about like how
my
I.
friend the other day, because I wrote something
listen to it.
for the Communist Party of Great Britain as a freelancer. And I was like, I don't know what a 19-year-old me would think of 23-year-old me in terms of my politics. Like, if I told them, oh yeah, I got paid to write something for the Communist Party, they'd be like, oh, you're such an idiot. What, you're a communist now or something? And I'm going to get into my friend the other day because I wrote something.
All right. So yeah, that's how someone like me, who despite even, like, I used to watch the Young Turks since like 2011. And I remember them announcing like Bernie Sanders running for president. I remember watching that video. It's like John and Cenk, and I was like, oh, this guy sounds really cool. And I was like fully in for Bernie Sanders, but because I was a naive lib, I thought like Americans' problems needed a Bernie Sanders, while the UK didn't. Well, Jeremy Corbyn wasn't relevant when I voted Tory, but like I didn't think Labour, and to be honest, Ed Miliband, I don't really like him anyway, so I don't regret not voting for Labour or something like that. I just regret voting Conservative once. But again, I was 19 fucking years old. So I'm not too hard on myself, because some people like were like massive Trump supporters and now they're communists. Like I'm not even shaming people for even having these politics. It's just like the problem, like the guy who tweeted me was mad because I said to Hunter Avallone, like, you used to be a Nazi. The problem I have sometimes is people like Hunter Avalone are like massive YouTubers who built like a whole career on being insanely racist and bigoted, right? Their legacy on the internet is doing loads and loads of harm. I've had people message me saying I literally got harassed at school for being gay or like transgender because of my friends were watching Hunter Avalone. Like I've literally had people send that to me, right? And it's all well and good. He's become a liberal and stuff. But my main point when I called him out was like, maybe just if a black woman's talking about who she will believe about like racism and stuff, maybe shut up. Like you don't really have a leg to stand on when you built your whole fame on being racist. But then at the same time, I don't. With your average person who is just like holds problematic views, votes for bad people, and then comes around. Like I'm not going to shame you at all. Like I don't give a shit. I'm glad you come out of that. If Ben Shapiro suddenly turned around and maybe legit said he was like a leftist, I'd be like, that's all well and good, but can you please fuck off? Like I don't want you on our side because you've done like immeasurable damage. And that, you know, people can debate whether that's fair, but I would be like, you've had so much time to not do this, and you've caused so much damage like to a lot of people in the world. I don't accept you changing. Like you personally, maybe you have changed, but I do not accept you being a voice on my side. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm reading some more stuff. I voted for George Bush when I was 18. Yeah, so like I'm not. Everyone has their own environment they grow up in, and it's hard to often break out of the brainwashed and everything. So yeah, Andrew's saying if Trump didn't announce his presidential campaign with calling Mexicans rapists, I would have voted for him in 2016. Yeah, see, I'm not the only one. Yeah, Benjamin, I do agree with a pro-Brexit Labour versus an anti-Brexit Conservative. The main problem is, right, so I've said this before, if I was working for the Vote Leave campaign, what I would have put forward is, not that I do not agree with this argument, by the way, I'm just saying, if I wanted to appeal to like working class people and try and make maybe like an isolationist left-wing policy, I would say that a lot of jobs in this country are done by European Union migrants who can come here and do the jobs, and there's a lot of British unemployment. So what we should do is we'll make it harder for people to get here and take these jobs, and we will train up British people to fill these jobs, right? And we will put these programs in place for nurses, doctors, hospital workers, whatever job, right? I would have made that argument because it's an argument, not like I said, not that I agree with it. It's an argument that actually makes sense to people because it could actually benefit them. Whereas the actual argument for Brexit was like, oh, you don't want Muslims coming here, you don't want more Romanians and Polish, so vote leave, basically. I'm just like you, Al Hassan. That's cool. Like if we're like quite similar in that regard. So the thing is, I would never say I was a conservative. I voted conservative once as being like a bit of a contrarian. I don't, and also like the candidate I voted for. Let's just be clear: the candidate I voted for like literally worked as a doctor in Gaza and treated lepers in like Nigeria. I think I read like this conservative candidate was not like Boris Johnson or Priti Patel or something, so I could rationalize it a lot more. And like I said, I was naive. But I was always a lib, like an atheist liberal. I was never ever a conservative or a right winger. Yeah. Well, there's a Vince or Vinci or however you say that. You say atheism plus socialism equals reality. Like I saw a funny tweet. It's like, if you were an atheist when you're 18, you're either a communist or you're a skull measurer now. And that actually seems to be the case as well. Like all the new atheists have like jumped off the deep end into talking about eugenics, while like a lot of other people like myself have essentially become Marxists and stuff. Oh, also, Numit saying, I'm glad I had people like you in my life when I was 19 to help me figure out this stuff. Yeah, that's actually really cool. I appreciate you saying that. A couple of my audience who are younger have said this to me as well before. Like I've influenced them in a good way, specifically with the anti-SJW videos, because I've shown people how shallow those arguments are and how they can't actually blame left-wing things for things being bad, like Star Wars, for example. But yeah, that's another thing personally. Like, there is so much more leftist online content now. Like, even Hassan being like one of the biggest Twitch streamers is like crazy. Like, there was no one like that when I was 18. I was 18 in 2013, right? Like, there was no one like that. It was the Young Turks, and pretty much that's it. Who I did watch, to be fair. But like, now you have so many choices for left-wing media, and just it feels like on Twitter, just the amount of traffic like left-wing accounts can get, like even when you see them like ratioing people like Elon Musk, for example, it's just crazy how much more influential actual left-wing people are now compared to when I was younger. Then there was no visible like Marxist people or like proper hardcore leftist people. It was like liberals, and that was and there was barely any of them as well. It's so different now. Miss Diction, I'm going to stream for a fair bit longer, to be honest. Sorry, just reading some more comments. A lot of history channels on YouTube are just fucking basically fascist apologists. Gelatin saying, that's actually why my great-grandfather took part in the Easter Rising, though I don't know enough about it to talk about it at length. Oh, that's cool. I wonder if they knew each other. They probably did, to be honest. So I'm just reading some more people. Kaji saying, it's important to remember that smart people can rationalize beliefs they came to from non-rational means, including yourself. Being a little clever is a dangerous thing. It's not even that, although I do appreciate that comment. It's not even that. I think the problem sometimes is, and this is where the skeptic movement, and I've made this argument as well. The skeptic movement, in their how they form their arguments, they essentially rejected anecdotal evidence. For example, like they would say, the argument about institutional or systemic sexism and racism is just not quantifiable in data. Like they would say something about like how many white people would get shot by police compared to black people, right? And they would say I don't remember. This is one video I remember watching. I don't even remember what day it was. It's like it's not that much of a difference, so they're clearly exaggerating this issue, right? It's just like there's more spotlight on the black killing, so it's actually it's exaggerated. It's not true. For example, I've heard Sam Harris say something to that effect. So they were basically like, if you cannot prove it to me with a scientific study, then it's not true. And anecdotal experience of sexism, racism, all that stuff, it doesn't matter. Like that's just anecdotal. Like it's not relevant. Even if there's loads of you saying it, it's just not relevant. I need this data. And that's how I think like a lot of atheisty, sciencey people can end up having like really, really horrible politics, including social scientists involved in like history and politics and stuff. All right, gonna read some more comments and then we might move on. Yeah, his Batman video was terrible, Diego. So her Mayor Moira saying, the first president I voted for was Obama because he said so many progressive things, but ended up being almost as much as an imperialist and war criminal, completely disillusioning and radicalizing. Yeah, the thing is Obama, I think you cannot like slander anyone who voted for Obama in 2008. Like the things he was saying and the things he wanted apparently to achieve, they're really progressive, especially for the day like 2008, right? I'd have no problem with people voting for him, but like obviously he turned out to be a little shit. And 2012, like Mitt Romney or Obama, like yeah, you're gonna vote for Obama probably, but yeah, definitely for sure. Blue Yonder, I appreciate you provided me more context in regards to films and games and anime having progressive messages. Blade Runner is my fave film too. Yeah, awesome, Blue Yonder. Yeah, and also the thing of something like Blade Runner, the first one, I'm not above criticizing Blade Runner because it does have a lot of xenophobia in it, as a result of the time period it was made in, the 1980s, and how America viewed Japan. during that time period. But yeah, I like looking into these a bit more because it does overall have a left wing message. Oh, awesome. Medi's saying, I actually found your channel from your Metal Gear video and got radicalized after watching more of your vids. Medi, that's so awesome. I appreciate that. What were you before you watched some of my videos? YouTube in 2016 was the worst thing ever. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. 2016, like 2014, 2016 was bad. Marxist atheist. Yeah. The thing is, should I rewatch Mr. Robot after being left pilled? Yeah, I'd say watch it again. I watched it again recently when I was in Spain, actually, and it still holds up with the left wing messages, even if you're like proper leftist. Even though I do think season 4 doubles down on a bit of a lib ending because I think Sam Esmail, the creator, is actually a liberal rather than a leftist. In an ideal world, who would you choose to be head of state in the UK? Corbyn for the king. So I'm just reading some more comments. Do I feel Hunter Avallone should not be accepted on the broad left? I mean, that's not for me to say. Personally, I don't give a shit. Personally, I just don't. I'm just kind of done with rehabilitated fascists being prominent leftists. But at the end of the day, it's for gay, trans, and African American and Latino people to decide if you want to accept them. It's not down to me. Like he didn't personally. You know, I think I don't want people like that around anymore. In terms of like being prominent creators on the left, the thing is people get mixed up with what I'm saying. I don't want people like this as prominent creators on the left because I think they're bad influences on people. Like, do you remember he was like simping for the CIA recently? It's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? But the only reason you're even relevant to leftist people is because Vosh played a part in like pulling you over to more leftist positions. So yeah, I'm kind of sick of that personally. But again, if there's trans people, like I said, gay people, African Americans, Latino people, if you want to accept him, then yeah, you can. It's not for me to say he can't be forgiven and accepted. But personally, I'm just kind of sick of people who built their fame on literally being fucking fascist, basically. Just really easily being accepted into the left and then having really awful takes when they are on the left and then people still defend it. It is what my problem is, I think. So I'm just reading some more stuff. Who's Yimmy? Oh, okay. There's the guy called Yimmy in the chat. I thought you were talking about Limmy. Jude the Fourth. Oh, thanks so much for the $10. I really appreciate that, Jude. Really nice of you. You're a top bloke. I'm a British American living in America as a black asexual Jew with a background of African American, Nigerian, and Scottish who is in love with a lesbian. Multicultural overload. That's a cool mix. Wait, British American, black asexual Jew with a background of African American, Nigerian. that is like a extremely diverse. I mean, like the good thing about having all of that background is you obviously have like a very interesting point of view on like so many different topics. But damn, yeah, that's a lot. Did you were you born in the UK or are you like? I'm guessing you weren't, or are you? One of your parents is British and one's born in America. I don't know, but thanks so much for the $10. That is that is a lot. But then yeah, it's good because I guess the main thing is it makes you more empathetic inherently because you have all this background to like and also like lived in experience of having this background. But yeah, thanks so much for the $10. Really appreciate that super chat. King Corbin, Count Binface, yeah, Count Binface. I'm looking like a Spec Ops operator. Yeah, well, in one of those videos, I dressed myself up as Chris Pratt. Like I had that monster hat, which someone bought me for a joke for my birthday. Cav is my favorite historian. We're going to crowdfund him a docu-series called The History of Furry Nazis. Yeah, well, there's loads of good articles about that. Sadly, I probably won't be covering that again because I got fucking my Discord destroyed by them after making a video on them. Is it time to talk about Blade Runner yet? I mean, we spoke a lot about Blade Runner in the last stream. You guys, if you got a question about Blade Runner, throw it in the chat. All right, so I'm reading some more stuff. I haven't watched The Wire. My brother loves The Wire though. Yeah, Pedro, that would have been cool. Since they had Bolsheviks versus the whites, it would have been pretty sick to have Irish versus the English. Might be too controversial for them. I don't know. Yeah, like the memes, Ray, like Ben Shapiro memes on PewDiePie, I guess. But then he's just astroturfed by the right, isn't he? Yeah, so Esper is asking me a question about Blade Runner. So basically, the xenophobia in it's not even it's not inherent xenophobia. Basically, I'd say it's Orientalism, where Asian culture is essentially made into one blob, in a way that I'd say the second Blade Runner doesn't do. So the context is in the 1980s there was a big trade war between Japan and the US. US Congress wanted to like ban Japanese goods because Japan was really excelling on the global economy. So people were saying that like, well, Japan did Pearl Harbor and we rewarded them by rebuilding their country, and now they were scared Japan was going to become the world's top economy in the world because of their consumer output. But then there was a massive economic crash in Japan in the late 80s, or was it 1990? So those fears stopped. But yeah, generally there was a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment at the time. And then you have a film like Blade Runner, where the Asian aesthetic is clearly inspired by Japan, but at the same time is a mixture of other things like Cantonese and Hong Kong Chinese and stuff, as well as just being like taking a lot of inspiration from lots of Asian cultures and just making it one thing. And like in the way Orientalism refers to like how the British referred to the Orient, which was just like a massive landmass going from the Middle East to India and China, as all like one thing where you can just stereotype one, like millions of diverse people. That's what Blade Runner really has in its depiction of Asian people. And obviously Ridley Scott has talked about, I think he worked in Hong Kong in the 60s. It is inspired by like Hong Kong, in part Bristol as well in the UK, and Japan and everything. But yeah, essentially Blade Runner sort of is a world which has been overrun by Japanese people essentially at a time when there was a lot of xenophobia about Japanese people taking over the global economy as well. Whereas in the second Blade Runner, it's a lot more diverse, where you have like, you do have the Japanese influence being a bit consistent, but you have like I think you have Thai, you have Russian, you have lots of other different representation. Hungarian is a big one as well. So the cyberpunk dystopia is not just influenced by the politics of the 1980s. It's actually like a lot more broad, which I think is a good thing that they addressed, and is something that they're trying to address a bit more in cyberpunk as a genre. Didn't do very well in the cyberpunk game, but I made a whole video criticizing this stuff. I think the cyberpunk game is pretty bad for it as well. Reading some more stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't say Hunter Avalone's grifting at all. I said that in my video about him. I don't think he's grifting. If you're grifting, you don't fucking do a 180 in your politics and lose most of your audience. Dad was British, mum was American. Oh, that's interesting. So you were born in America? Nebraska saying something that isn't talked about is that fascists and ex-fascists rehabilitations are given more value. Yeah, given more value over anything else, first priority, and that is pretty harmful. Yeah, like so some of the arguments I've seen about leftist streamers being more edgy and using slurs is like, well, you want to get people in who might be far right, but it's like there are plenty of just really normal people who you could influence without doing that. Like, why is there a focus on this? But there's plenty of normal people who you'd also alienate with this edgy slurs and stuff. Average Rear, that's nice for you. I don't watch your videos much, but you're amazing. I don't know how much hate you get, but I know that people like you don't stop and keep moving forward. Yeah, thanks, Average Viewer. Yeah, hate. I mean, I go through periods like at the moment I'm not getting much hate, but then like sometimes you go through phases. I think a couple months ago I got dogpiled a lot on Twitter, but then I just mute everything. So, but thanks for the nice comment. Streamer, feed me my opinions now. Blade Runner 1 is better than 2. Nope. Realizing shoegaze. I mean, I've seen people talk about this shit like the new anti-SJW wave. What the fuck are people talking about? It's only gotten worse, like, as the years have gone on. There is no wave because it's literally the entire of YouTube. Like, the entire of nerd content on YouTube is dominated by right-wing reactionaries who are spawned out of the skeptic movement. The quartering is absolutely massive. His views are insane, right? There was no quartering, well, there was a quartering back in 2016, but it wasn't as popular as it is today. So I don't understand what people are like, there's going to be a new anti-SJW wave. It's always been like this. It's fucking gotten worse. The only difference is there's a lot more left-wing people now. It's the only difference. YouTube has always been dominated by reactionary right-wingers. It's just, in my opinion, gotten a bit worse, but there's more left-wing people now. Yeah, unification of Ireland is probably going to happen. I want it to happen. I just don't know. It just depends about the next Northern Irish election, how much the Republicans win, to be honest. The UP is an absolute fucking dumpster fire, though. Not just their politics, they're just an absolute mess at the moment. Meow Nian, there's a Call of Duty Black Ops level I recently played that is in Kowloon, and it's fucking sick. Like, I didn't even remember this level existed. I fucking love the architecture. So I'm guessing that's part of the inspiration for Blade Runner, because, like I said, Ridley Scott apparently worked in Hong Kong. Yeah, Blue Yonder, that's cool. So someone is Filipino American. I like that you also brought up yellow peril tropes in the West, especially in cyberpunk. Yeah, for sure. It's something that's a problem, and people get very defensive because they're like, well, the guy who created Cyberpunk 2022, which is the board game for 2077, they're like, well, he's a black guy, so how is he racist? And it's like, just because he's a black guy doesn't mean he can't regurgitate the inherent like yellow peril racism of the cyberpunk genre that literally is inherent to its creation through is it called, what's it called, something mancer, is it necromancer or something else, and Blade Runner, of course, are like two of the founding things of cyberpunk. Yeah, Japan. People are actually really interested in Japanese leftism. It seems on my channel, and Japanese fascism at the moment. So are you Japanese communist? Where are you originally from? Okay, I don't really know much about Adam Something apart from having horrible community posts, which get shared around left Twitter. Oh, that's cool. Jude, here's a question for you. Do you think you identify more with your British side because you don't live in Britain? Because I find that sometimes with me in Ireland, I tend to identify more with the Irish side. But obviously, I didn't grow up there or live there. But then it's a weird thing. It's like, because I don't live there, is it in some ways, is it more attractive, the identity? And because of Brexit as well, like, reminded me of the xenophobia of the UK, it made me identify more with Irish, especially because like my grandma and my grandparents who are like migrants and stuff to the UK, like, were treated like shit. And that's what made me identify more with Irish as I got older. No, I didn't already talk about it. I just been fucking talking shit. Yeah, Russell Brand ain't no leftist anymore. I made a whole video on it. You can go check it out for yourself. Yeah, a lot of people do like. I think there are a lot of, in a nice way, weebs on the left, like people who are really interested in in Japanese leftism. Hensler, you talking about the Ukrainian soldiers who said that, and then everyone thought they were dead? Neuromancer, there we go. So Adam something, from what I've seen, he used to be a right winger, and now pretends he's a leftist. I don't know. Yeah, Austin, I made a whole video on that. It's really interesting history of the Japanese Communist Party. Since you on all consoles and PC, which one's your favorite? Oh, I don't play PC games. I'd say I don't know. I don't really have a favorite. Like I got an Xbox Series S, and I really like it because you can play old games. Like I just bought Metal Gear Rising. So I want to play through that again. I got PS5. I'm going to play Horizon after the stream, and I love my Switch as well. I just fucking love video games. I wish I could live in like a time capsule where time in the world stood still and I could just play video games for fucking days. One bad thing about doing YouTube full time, it's not even a bad thing. I just I don't have as much time for video games anymore, which is sad. I miss being a student. I remember when The Witcher 3 came out. It was in the end of my first year of my undergrad, and it's just like I banged out The Witcher 3. Like I think I'd get up, I'd go to the gym, do chores, buy food. I would write my essay or research my essay or revise my exams, and then from 12 a.m. till 6 p.m. for like 2 weeks straight, I would just bang out The Witcher 3. Like I have never been so addicted to a game in my life. Like Skyrim, I was quite addicted, but Witcher 3 was like another level. Absolutely fucking loved it. And then my friend, and it's really weird because I got so many of my friends into it, and they had such a similar experience of just like non-stop playing it for weeks to finish it. Like one of my friends completed the whole game and the 2 DLCs in like 3 weeks, and I was like, fucking hell! Like you must have really loved it, like I did. I read some more stuff. Adam something, the guy who says nuclear war isn't so bad, and every leftist should be pro Macron and pro NATO. Someone has said the leftist argument for voting for Macron. I mean, it's shitty, but like only to keep Le Pen out. But the thing is, Macron's trying to out. He tried to out fascist Le Pen on Islam. Like that was literally a strategy, and it didn't even fucking pay off because people were still voting for her. So I'm reading some more stuff. You didn't graduate. Fallout 4 came out in third year. I wasn't as addicted, but I did like it a lot. I completed the DLC and everything. Okay. All right, so I said I would talk about this. So let's talk about this a bit. I'll talk about this Elon Musk thing a tiny bit. I want to talk about the Rwandan stuff in the UK a bit more. Sorry. Okay, so Elon Musk has made a hostile. Okay, this is quite funny. And do you know what's actually making me laugh about Elon Musk is that he's such an unhinged person in his business dealings. It means people just do not take him seriously in a lot of these things. So Elon Musk has made a hostile bid for Twitter with an offer that values the company at nearly 43.4 billion. Although he acknowledges Gambit to take the social media platform private may fail, Musk's offer of 54.20 a share comes days after he took a 9% stake in the company, becoming its largest shareholder, but rejected an invitation to join its board. The move would transform the tech entrepreneur into a social media baron, able to set the future direction of a platform where he has 80 million followers and which he has used to pursue personal vendettas and promote his agenda. The entrepreneur announced the offer on Thursday in a filing with the US Securities and Exchange Commission, saying he would unlock the company's potential to be the platform for free speech around the globe. Speaking at the TED conference in Vancouver on Thursday after the announcement, he said he had sufficient assets to fund the deal, but conceded, "I'm not sure I'll actually will be able to acquire it." He said he intended to retain as many shareholders as is allowed by law in a private company, insisted he did not want to monopolize or maximize his Twitter ownership. "I don't care about the economics at all." He added that he had a plan B if the bid was not successful, although he did not elaborate. Further, Musk's offer represents a 38 premium to Twitter's shares since April 1st, 3 days before his stake became public, although it's still 26% below in its 12-month high. He hinted he could walk away if the deal fell through. My offer is my best and final offer, and if it's not accepted, I would need to reconsider my position as a shareholder. Shares in Twitter closed, blah, blah, blah. In his sentence view, Musk said Twitter should match the laws of each country, adding, I think we would want to err on the side of, if in doubt, let the speech exist. If it's a grey area, I would say let the tweet exist. When asked about his plans for the company if he succeeds in buying it, Musk said Twitter should avoid deleting posts and advocate for timeouts over permanent bans, a position that could pave the way for return of US former President Donald Trump. Twitter said they will carefully review the proposal to determine the course of action if it believes it's in the best interest of the company and all of the stockholders. The company is weighing deploying a poison pill, a mechanism that can be used to dilute a hostile investor's stake to thwart Musk's bid, according to one person on internal Twitter discussions. Talking about like a prince. Okay, so here's the fucking problem. This guy is an absolutely unhinged man baby who cannot actually take criticism seriously. And honestly, I fully don't expect him to take over Twitter, because I think all those shareholders, and if they're talking about like strategies to get rid of him, I cannot see them accepting him, because what they will think is, yeah, his payout is big, but if people want to stay on the board of Twitter for maybe like ideological reasons or some shit like that, having this guy is gonna just fuck around with Twitter's valuation, because he's gonna do so much controversial, weird shit with it, just like he does with his other companies as well. He's so fucking unstable, and he's also, because he's the richest man in the world, alongside with Jeff Bezos, he does not give a shit. And the thing is, people actually thinking this could be a good thing are totally ridiculous. This guy is one of the most sensitive. It's frankly embarrassing how much he tries to be liked by people. It feels like someone who was bullied really bad in school is now the richest man in the world and is now convinced he has friends because he tweets really, really dumb, immature jokes to his 14-year-old fans who think it's funny, where most people just think it's absolutely embarrassing for like a 52-year-old man to be acting like he's a 14-year-old 4chaner. So any company, you know, who wants to stay profitable for the future, I would say would reject this. Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, his reforms, like, you know, that picture of Ghislaine Maxwell and him, you think that's going to be allowed anymore? No fucking way. No fucking way. He's he personally cancelled someone's Tesla order because they criticised him. So you think, and this guy personally busts unions in Tesla factory. Like, you think this fucking man baby is going to be a good force for free speech on Twitter? So stupid. John, thanks so much for $10. Greetings from the Netherlands. Hopefully YouTube doesn't steal so much cut from it. John, I appreciate the $10 so much. Really, really nice of you. I don't know how much Twitter takes. YouTube takes. I think it's a third, maybe less, of super chats. But no, I really, really appreciate it. Sorry, I'm looking at some more stuff. Yeah, Skyrim's aged really bad, but the soundtrack and the visuals are still great. Like, I always put ambient playlists with like footage on the screen when I'm editing and stuff. So reading some more stuff. I want to kick into Mars. Didn't he invent electric cars? No, Elon Musk did not invent the electric car. The electric car was invented in like the 60s or something. He didn't even... Tesla isn't even his own company. He just fucking did a hostile takeover like he's trying to do here. You can take the man out of apartheid, but you can't take apartheid out of the man. Well, yeah, apparently Tesla's working conditions are really fucking racist as well. Yeah, Soul Bunny, what did you think of that? So Soul Bunny saying, I'm working on my video essay and saw that Hunter Avalone responded to your tweet regarding to him calling Cat Black a brain dead eyed Paul. As a black trans woman, I know I'm not even safe from the left. Yeah, the thing is as well, he was convinced. He was like, I was never a fascist. I was never a fascist. And then I posted a clip of him, which he didn't respond to, of him basically saying, build the wall, gas all refugees coming here, and basically brutalize them while saying America first, right? And I was like, if this isn't fascist, like, what is fascist? Yeah, Sanji Boy Dead. Thanks so much for the super chat, the $5. Really, really appreciate it. I'm going to talk about it next, so your question will be answered soon. Yeah, Brandon, Skyrim atmospheres, like the track, like 40 minutes, ambient and music, so fucking good. Listen to it all the time. Okay, 100 years ago, maybe I was wrong. If you can't trust the CIA, who can you trust? Yeah, exactly. That's literally what you fucking said. All right, so let's get on to the UK basically going full fucking fascist. Sorry, have I got like a news story for this? Okay, so basically the UK, for those of you who don't know, to talk about UK politics. So a big issue between France and the UK is these refugee like shanty towns that are set up in Calais with refugees from around the world wanting to come to the UK. So there's been a bit of an argument because they're saying the French aren't doing enough to stop these people from coming to the UK, and then there's this. It's just a culture war bullshit thing and massive racism and xenophobia, where they've deployed like the Royal Navy to stop migrants coming across, as they call them migrants. I'd say refugees. The Channel. And the thing is, people are like, well, why wouldn't they stop in the first country they find? And it's like, I don't know. Maybe some of them want to go to a place that speaks their language. Mainly some of them want to go to a place where they have family and someone who can care for them and provide for them. Maybe like if you were in that position and you were fleeing, like if you were fleeing Ukraine, if you were fleeing the Middle East or North Africa, you'd want to go to a country where you know people, right? That's why refugees don't just go, oh, I'm in Lebanon now. I'm in Egypt now. I'm in, I don't know, Morocco. I'll just stay here and I don't know anyone and I don't speak the language. Like, of course that's not going to happen. Anyway, so this has been a thing for a long, long time, and part of Brexit, the xenophobia, was to make it way harder for asylum seekers to come here. Now the problem is, most refugees can't apply for asylum outside the UK. You have to physically be present in the UK. But what they're messing about with is that they're saying if you come here to the UK without applying for asylum before, you're an illegal immigrant. And you must be deported, basically. Even though there is no way for asylum seekers, unless you're from Ukraine or Hong Kong, and there's one other country, to actually apply before you get to the UK, right? So they're basically saying every refugee who comes to the UK now, illegally, you can now be deported to Rwanda. And as Boris Johnson says, Rwanda, one of the safest countries around. It's not. Full of human rights abuses that the UK government, under him, have called out, right? So his government have called out Rwanda for human rights abuses, and Rwanda specifically has disappeared people, refugees, who have protested for better conditions and treatment from their government, right? So I'll read you what they say here. Priti Patel's ambition to send asylum seekers as far away from the UK mainland as she can has a history. 2 years ago, the Home Secretary looked at shipping channel migrants to processing centres in North Africa. Those ideas eventually bit the dust on the grounds that included the scheme's inhumanity. But Miss Patel has never been one to let the facts get in the way of a wicked idea. She's the Home Secretary, awful person, who's introduced laws that would stop her own parents coming to the UK if they tried to in 2022. On Thursday, the Home Secretary announced in Kigali that in return for 120 million, seems quite cheap, of development aid, Rwanda will accept the transfer of UK asylum seekers. This is a much more sweeping approach, since it apparently involves no asylum claim processing, that makes it simply an expulsion exercise which, apart from any other objections, carries many colonial era echoes. Although Rwanda was described by Boris Johnson as a dynamic country and one of the world's safest, it was condemned only this week by the US State Department as a country with significant human rights issues, which include arbitrary killings and detentions, forced disappearances, and harsh and life-threatening prison conditions. Now, obviously, that's not much coming from the US, but this is something echoed by like Amnesty International and human rights organizations. A similar policy in Rwanda, run by Israel, fell apart in 2017, and there's a similar one in Australia with Papua New Guinea. when only 9 of about 4,000 deportees were found to have remained there. It's far from clear that this latest example of Mrs. Patel's addiction to the politics of cruelty will in fact be put into practice, let alone be effective on a large scale. The significance of Thursday's announcement was as much in its cynical timing as in its cold-hearted substance. Boris Johnson is being hammered again by the unpopularity of his Downing Street pandemic law-breaking and fines. His party is facing serious losses in local elections in 3 weeks' time because of it. The chances of a vote of confidence against him are rising. For the Prime Minister, a headline-grabbing crackdown initiative on immigration provides a media distraction, a chance to rally his anti-immigration voters before the local elections, and puts pressure on MPs and peers who are still blocking asylum law changes in the government's immigration and borders bill. The approach is objectionable on multiple grounds. It's expensive, inhumane, and at odds with his country's history of commitment to refugees. That's fucking laughable. Lib moment there from The Guardian. The UK has always fucking hated refugees. And it's likely to be proved illegal and unlikely to be the deterrent that Miss Patel hopes. It's a racist measure. It seems unlikely that a white Ukrainian who arrived in Britain would be sent to Rwanda. It's also not as popular as some would assume. A snap poll on Thursday showed that a majority of voters oppose the scheme, which is nice. And just going to Rwanda itself, Rwandan opposition criticises deal to accept UK asylum seekers. Opposition politicians in Rwanda have criticised its agreement to accept thousands of unauthorised asylum seekers flown from the UK. Victoire Ingabire Umuhoza, the leader of the DALFA Umurinzi, said officials in Rwanda should focus on solving its political and social issues that made Rwandans seek refuge abroad before offering to host refugees or migrants from other countries. Someone else saying a wealthy country such as the UK should not shift their international obligations to receive refugees and transfer them to third countries just because they have the money and influence. Rwanda already has a high population density and already land is not being sufficiently used for us, with a lot of land conflicts and competition for natural resources. Taking on migrants from the UK will increase the land burden and survival challenges for the limited natural resources available. Rwanda produced refugees too. These included Rwandan people who sought political and economic asylum in other countries. Such conditions do not, in fact, guarantee long-term security for Rwanda in the region. So, talking about Rwandan President Paul Kagame, he's credited with the development and stability Rwanda has experienced since the genocide, but he's also accused of intolerance towards any criticism, whether domestic or international. He won a third term in power with 98% of the vote, so you know that's fucking bullshit. No one wins 98% of a vote. It's like Assad in Syria. Right, so anyway, let me get to... Actually, I won't play that because it might pop out with copyright stuff. Yeah, so in the latest news of Britain slowly descending into fascism, which it has under Priti Patel and Boris Johnson, they want to do this insane policy of deporting basically all refugees to Rwanda, a country which wasn't mentioned in this article, also has a history of awful human rights abuses, disappearing critics of the government, whether that's YouTubers or journalists, or even refugees who want better conditions. It is not one of the safest countries in the world, and even people in Rwanda, politicians saying, well, there's not even like enough land for us to develop ourselves. We don't have the resources, despite this money, to house all these, potential refugees. And it's just so obviously inhumane. Like, even with the Ukrainian stuff, the UK has not been taking in refugees either. And it's this insane xenophobic project from this Tory hard right. And the thing is, I tweeted today, this shows how capitalism and fascism are so compatible, right? Because even if you say there isn't, which it probably is, there isn't any economic benefits of being this xenophobic, at the end of the day, capital doesn't give a shit about morality, right? So even if we remove, let's say Boris Johnson and Priti Patel are only doing this for ideological reasons. Like, there's no economic benefit. They're not being paid to do it by any third party. They're just doing it because they're racist as fuck, and it's part of their like nationalism, right? But then capitalism doesn't care. They like Boris Johnson because he's a corporate stooge. They like the Tory party because they're so in bed with business interests, right? So no matter what they do in this regard, and the Tories have also criminalised protest, you can get 10 years in prison for throwing a tomato at a statue of Winston Churchill. They've clamped down hard on freedom of speech. protest, want to introduce laws to the internet. They've even considered making ratioing illegal on Twitter. They're trying to make BDS illegal this year as well. So these fascists in our government are slowly putting the UK on the path to becoming Poland, Hungary, Russia, maybe in 30 years. And the problem is we have no functioning opposition as well. If you guys don't know, we have our own, basically, Joe Biden leading the Labour Party. He's a centre-right Labour leader who used to work for the Crown Prosecution, which involved him basically covering the arses of the intelligence community for their gross torture programs during the War on Terror. He did not prosecute when terror police killed, I forgot his name, you guys will know, that Brazilian man, innocent Brazilian man. He helped clear the only former police commissioner who resigned last week. So, and he also bought into this framing. He's talked about the Channel crisis. Like, it's a crisis, national crisis. Refugees coming to Britain is a crisis. So he's bought into this, and because this fucking guy is trying to out patriotism, the Tories, which you're never going to win at, he's going to accept this shit. He has whipped his own party to not vote against a Tory bill that would grant amnesty for MI6 and MI5 agents who rape and kill. Like, because he doesn't want to be seen as unpatriotic. It doesn't fucking matter. The people who can be convinced to believe that you hate your country, no matter what party you're in, are not people who are not going to care because you whipped your MPs to abstain on a vote that would give the intelligence community more power. And that's the mess we're in the UK. We have no functioning opposition. And I say UK, it's England. England is the problem, and it's English politics, right? So in Scotland, nearly the whole of Scottish representation in the UK Parliament is from one party. It's the Scottish National Party. It's a left-wing party that is winning a lot of support based on one of its primary goals is getting independence for Scotland, right? And it seems more likely than ever at the moment that if there was another independence referendum, Scottish independence would win. Because most people now in Scotland, after seeing how badly and how irrationally England acts as the controlling force in this union, they want out, right? Northern Ireland, if there was a referendum today, I think it's like 45% of Northern Irish people would vote for unification with the Republic. And with demographic shifting, where there's going to be more Catholics in Northern Ireland than Protestants for the first time in the coming decades, it's more likely than not that in the next 20 years, that if there was a referendum on Irish unification, Northern Ireland would become a part of the Republic of Ireland. Now, Wales, the movement for independence is not as strong, but Wales is led by a Labour government. So Labour have introduced better policies in Wales, and generally they've handled a lot of economic things a lot better in Wales. But England is the problem, because outside of major cities, and it's also a problem in terms of national politics, Scotland used to be a big Labour area, but the SNP has wiped Labour out, right? So that's erased. Scotland has never been big for the Tories. It's been big for Labour, and now they've wiped it out, basically. So that's a whole bunch of seats that Labour need to win an election they can't get anymore. So the Tories are strong in rural areas of the UK. Like, most cities will have more Labour MPs. Like, London has more Labour MPs. I think Manchester still, Liverpool still, even though it is changing a bit. London also has quite a lot of Lib Dem MPs as well. I think maybe like 3 or 4. But most of England by MP seats, like district, they voted to leave the European Union, right? Most of Scotland voted to remain. Most of Northern Ireland voted to remain. I think Wales mostly voted Brexit as well. So it's really England, English politicians, English government leading the rest of the United Kingdom into disaster and really taking the piss, and just like is turning this country slowly into, not overnight, but more like a fascist state. And I can see in 10 or 20 years there being no legit opposition to the Tories. Like, the Tories will just be the party in government forever. They've already been in for 12 years next month. So think about that. Think about having one party in power for 12 years. That's basically what I've grown up with. So I can see this staying for ages, especially now that Labour have been wiped out in Scotland, where the SNP don't naturally align with Labour on a lot of things, especially under Starmer as well. So the problem here with the UK, like they said, this is a distraction. It probably will be declared illegal. With the problems with Australia and Israel have had with similar schemes, it probably won't work out. But it's part of the cruelty of the UK and its increasingly authoritarian streak and fascism it's introducing, and it just proves to you how capital does not have a problem with fascism. Capitalism and fascism are perfectly compatible, although some fascist systems might claim to be against capitalism, right? There are a lot of fascists who are against capitalism, right? They believe in totalitarian collectivism in a lot of ways, and obviously that involves stealing and killing off people you don't view as part of your fascist state. But even in Nazi Germany, you have all these German corporations totally in bed with the government, and you have, before the World War II, American corporations doing a lot of business in Nazi Germany, Western corporations. So, capital does not have a problem with fascism. They'll let fascism thrive as long as they can make a profit. And the UK is a good proof of that, but there's multiple countries like that as well. Ahmed saying Conservative MPs are almost half from the same schools in uni. And that's the problem with the UK, and I've made a difference, right? In the US, it's far easier just to buy a politician, any politician, right? In the UK, the problem is most of the top business people, journalists, CEOs, and MPs and ministers, they all went to school together. They all went to Oxbridge. They all went to Eton. They all know each other. That's how they give out loads of contracts to their mates, or through what's the fucking word? Networking. A friend of a certain MP will have a direct line to the Prime Minister. Some shit like that. Like they're totally in bed together. It's like Hydra or some shit. Like they all know each other, and that's the problem. And even people in Labour politics all the time are friends of these people through school and connections and everything. Do you think there's heavy nationalist indoctrination in the UK? Now, that's the difference in the UK, right? So, because we're divided up by country, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, you can't really push nationalist indoctrination as hard across the union. I think England, I wouldn't say it pushes nationalism on you so much so that it sanitizes the UK's image and history to the point that it doesn't seem so bad to be a patriot. And it's not like the US where it's like, we won't apologize, fuck you, America's the best country in the world. It's more like, Britain is the best, like, invented all these things. The empire was a good thing, blah, blah, blah. The empire wasn't that bad. Like, look at all it's done for these countries. It's multicultural, and you can be proud of it, and we're good at football, and we have the best football league in the world, and all this shit. So I'd say obviously you can't indoctrinate a nationalistic or a Scottish patriot into English nationalism. You can't do that with a Northern Irish person. Like, you have half of Northern Ireland like the UK, the other half fucking hate the UK, like inherently hate the UK. Lots of Scotland hate the UK now as well and want to leave. Even there is that rivalry between Welsh and English people as well. So you can't really push this English centered nationalism on people. But I would say the Scots and the English and the Welsh have been in alliance longer, especially the Scots and the English. So I think you can sanitize the image of the UK where people think it's not so bad. But there is that rivalry and sometimes hatred between the countries in the United Kingdom as well. Well, the problem is Cantankerous Farm. Here's another thing. They recently tried to push this song in for children as dystopian shit. It was like they would sing this song on this made up called like Great Britain Day, and the lyrics were literally like, "Strong Britain, great nation. Strong Britain, great nation." Children would be forced to sing this song, and it was like, well, the problem is in Scotland, you're trying to indoctrinate children into a union that most of Scotland, based on polling, do not want to be in anymore. They don't want to be part of Britain. Half of Northern Ireland don't want to be in the British Union, right? So you're going to make them sing "Strong Britain, great nation. Strong Britain, great nation." You're trying to indoctrinate them, and then it obviously failed in the end because people like, they asked Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, like, "Are you going to make people sing this?" And she was like, "No, not going to make children sing this." Sorry, I'm gonna read some more stuff. The thing is, I keep going back to Watch Dogs Legion is like such a good game at predicting all this shit happening. It obviously came out a year and a bit ago, but its commentary on the demonization of migrants, refugees, the othering of people, the racism is, and just like the police state is so interesting. I need to make a video on it one day. I really like that game as well. Like, I like the first Watch Dogs a lot. I didn't like the second one so much. And when I first played Watch Dogs Legion, I was like, I'm not feeling this. But then I had a break, came back when the DLC came out with Aiden in it and Wretch from the first two games. Really liked it, and then the social commentary in the DLC was really good about like prioritization of the NHS, mutual aid, about the police working with like fascist groups. It had like this spoof of the EDL, which is like what Tommy Robinson used to be head of, and it's like they were working with the cops and stuff, and it really interesting game, really left wing game. Like, obviously the problem is most people who played Watch Dogs Legion are probably Americans, so the social commentary is really lost on an American audience. But I think because obviously there's not like loads of left wing YouTubers who probably even play Watch Dogs Legion because people hate Ubisoft games. But when I was playing it, I was like, damn, like I've never played a game that is so like overtly political, contemporary politics. Like Metal Gear Solid and shit like that. They're obviously very political games, but it's never contemporary politics really. And if it's contemporary, it's more like maybe like a philosophical critique, where this is like, yeah, privatization of the NHS, Brexit has led to this dystopia that hates migrants and refugees, all this xenophobia, this police state, Parliament is basically a joke, everything being privatized. Like, yeah, really good social commentary. And it feels like the more I live and the more this shit keeps happening, I just keep this game. And the guy fucking said, the director of the game came out and said when he announced it, he's like, yeah, this is like post-Brexit dystopia. Like, Brexit's happened and this is the UK now. English, yeah. So I talked about this a bit. So I think being a left-wing patriot in like Israel, Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, it like makes zero sense, because those countries are just like these settler colonial nations. England is a very interesting one because England is of course like an extremely old country, and you could say maybe England in its modern form has been around for like 1,000 years. You can make the argument even longer if you want to talk about like the Roman borders and shit like that, but it's been around for a long time, and there's been like a tradition of like uprisings in this country that really are hundreds of years before like colonialism, and I think England, unlike the United States and Israel and these other settler colonial countries, I think there's something inherent in Englishness that you can extract that, not that I would like this, but is compatible with communism and socialism. Like, I think you could, in theory, you'd have to convince me though, you could maybe be a patriotic English communist. Potentially. I don't know if you could be a patriotic Scottish communist though, because of the legacy of Scottish colonialism on Ireland, and but then it's a weird one because obviously the English colonialism of Ireland started properly, I'd say, in the 1600s, has a legacy going back to the 1100s. So it is actually like a really hard one because England has had such a strong working class movement for so many years. It's just an interesting question. Like, I think there's more. I would understand the argument that someone's an English communist, patriotic communist, more than an American. But as someone who believes communists should not be patriots, because a lot of these countries. So here's my argument. While I admit there's more relevant argument to an English patriotic communist than a American, I would still say the UK or England has always basically been a monarchy. The same people who control us today literally can trace their families back to like 700 years ago. Things like Robin Hood is like a myth. What Robin Hood is based on, the Magna Carta and shit like that. It's literally just like rich barons wanting to curtail the influence of the king, and like it's all the parliamentary system was only for like rich people, like historically as well. So I think like the concept of an English nation has always been steeped in like elite and monarchy. So I find it hard to reconcile that stuff with being a patriot, and also local colonialism to Wales and to Ireland as well. People like to say Scotland, but I do kind of reject supposed English colonialism in Scotland, because most of the time their royal families have been quite linked together. And James the First, King James Bible, for those of you who don't know, because James is obviously very relevant to America, Jamestown and stuff like that. He's actually Scottish, like he's not English. He was the cousin of Elizabeth II. She died without an heir. He became King James the Sixth. He was King James the Sixth of Scotland, and he became King James the First of England. Right? He's Scottish, and the only reason there's even a union between them is because Scotland went bankrupt trying to colonize Panama, and came crawling back to England, basically. So you do see this William Wallace shit, and like, but even with William Wallace, like Robert the Bruce, who became like this modern king of Scotland, I think he went on crusades, or his dad went on crusades with the King of England at that time. So like, them two are way more linked together than Wales. Basically, was England went into there, killed the final king of Wales, dragged his corpse back to London, and like displayed it, and then Wales became part of England. Whereas with Northern Ireland, it's based on like settlements and colonization, and like, well, that's Ireland, but then they started in the north. Anyway, it's a hard one. I can understand the arguments for English communism because of the trade union movements and the workers' movements in this country. But I feel like with patriotism, you have to find something redeeming in the country's founding. And I feel like with England, to a lesser extent, but still still with the monarchy stuff, I think England, America, Israel, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, like settler colonial countries, and monarchies, I just don't think there's anything inherently redeeming. And I can understand if you go back in history, a monarchy was like the main way groups ruled themselves in most societies. But the problem with the English monarchy is it's been in completely like, even with the parliamentary system, it's been completely in bed with the elite of this country for about 800 years. Like, even if you accept that, like, okay, monarchies were just the way things were done, well, the British monarchy, because of things like the Magna Carta and then the parliamentary system, the early one, they've been like joint at the hip, like financial interests of the elite and the monarchy together, even if the monarchy is meant to be like, I don't know, above that and stuff. So I don't know. You absolutely cannot be a patriotic, a settler colonial communist. And while I'd happily engage with the argument a bit more if you're talking about England, I still reject that a lot. And the problem is, right, progressive socialism can work, but the progressive socialism can work. Patriotic socialism can work, but you need to be the people forming a new nation state, right? So, for example, Cuba is a good example. Like, there was no Cuban nation state, like, really. It was just like it was an English and Spanish colony. That's sorry, I'm thinking of Jamaica. Spanish colony taken over by the Americans, and then the Americans put in a puppet government to oppress it and keep the system alive of colonialism, right? Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Raul Castro, they were forging a Cuban identity. Like, you had obviously African Cubans who were descended from slaves and stuff. You had people who were Spanish, or sometimes, native as well, although I'm not sure if the native Cubans were wiped out like the native Jamaicans were. But obviously, because of that era, you probably did have half native people or whatever, who maybe worked for the Spanish Empire, probably working there. So I'm sure there was some of that diversity, and they were forging a Cuban nation, right? So that makes sense. They're like rejecting, like, we are not a colony of the United States. We're not a colony of Spain. We're not a fascist dictatorship by the Batista. We are like this new Cuban nation where we're gonna like reject this colonial past and come together as like this Cuban people. Like, they're forging a national identity. So patriotic communism in that context makes sense, and it's also like a good tool to use, because what are these people fighting for? You need like a better concept, right? And then you have other things like a lot of Latin American socialism is like that, because of these countries being so colonized by Spain and the US. You do have that element a lot more. I'm trying to think of other examples of where patriot. Oh, Ireland is another good example, right? Because the Irish culture and identity was like Ireland had like this clan system, and then it had like a high king that was elected and stuff. So it had more like, I guess, representation, but it was never like, even though it had a high king, it was always kind of split into different parts. But then with the English attacks on culture and promoting a certain group of people, like Scottish Protestants and English Protestants, to top positions, you can understand how the Irish in the 1910s were like, even the Irish in the 1790s who tried to start a revolution to start with, it's like, we are creating an Irish nation state. Like we are going to take our like cultural heritage back and create an equal Ireland for everyone, and we're going to reject this colonialism. And that makes more sense as well, because Ireland does not have that insanely problematic history. Ireland is actually, surprisingly, one of the European countries in the early years, even the Roman period, very isolated. Like there was no Roman colonies in Ireland. There was no English colonies during that period as well. Like Ireland stays relatively on its own until about, I'd say, like 1100. Like has some Viking settlements and stuff, but like it's not a dominant thing. Like England is literally passed back and forth between loads of groups. Ireland used to raid England. Like England used to be like total backwater, especially after the Romans left. So yeah, that's what like my take is on like this sort of communist patriotism, is that it does not make sense for a lot of countries, but I understand the context where it does make sense. Especially when your culture is also being erased by a colonizer, it makes a lot more sense. Anime, is this in like the 1600s, like the Jamaicans? Spitting Image, the old Spitting Image is really funny. The new one is shit. So I'm just reading some more comments. Belgian Doom is saying, I've travelled all over the UK all of my life. What really started to become clear about 10 years ago, how badly the state of a lot of working class neighbourhoods is. You can see poverty. Yeah, UK, like I drove around the UK in the summer. And I'm like going to places like Yeovil and like some like places in the Midlands, the poverty is a lot more stark. Like I went to school in a place that wasn't great in London. But looking back, especially when I've gone to other parts of the UK, it's actually not that bad. But yeah, for sure, like there's a lot of deprived areas and poverty in England. Well, Hikmet, Catalan nationalism reminds me of like Irish or Scottish nationalism, in that with Spain specifically. So people don't shouldn't think about Spain as like one country. It's like the UK. It's like various different states. Like where I lived in Spain was Andalusia. I didn't even realize Andalusia is considered an autonomous territory. It has its own parliament. I didn't even know that, and I've been going there for like 15 years. Um, under like Franco and various kings, it was unified. But a lot of these territories had their own say, and it's like their own country basically. And with Catalonia and like Barcelona and stuff, obviously you have that legacy of the civil war as well, like Madrid versus Barca. So I think it makes sense enough, because they do have a different cultural identity. They have constantly been forced to fight like for the Spanish. Oh, okay, yeah, anime. I thought that would be the case. Um, but yeah, like with patriotism in general, I don't personally like it that much. And like some people are saying in the chat, like it leads to nationalism a lot of the time, and I feel that's true as well. I mean, yeah, some context it's okay, and I understand it a bit more. But yeah, some context I think it's a bit silly. Okay, I think we've been going for 2 hours. So I've said everything I really want to say, to be honest. Yeah, so that's everything I really want to say. we spoke a lot about other things that weren't just Elon Musk and the UK being fascist. Tomorrow, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to make a video about. I'm probably going to talk about the woke Disney thing and all these conservatives saying Disney promotes paedophilia or some shit because it promotes gay rights in some of its films now. That's probably what I'm going to do a video on. I'm really not sure. Something might come up or pop up that I like the sound of a bit more, but maybe we'll go with that. But yeah, you're just going to have to keep an eye out for that. If you haven't already, watch my video from yesterday. Even if you think you don't like Miyazaki, who I haven't watched any of his films, but I have obviously played a lot of Kojima games. I think the video yesterday is interesting, just talking about Japan post-war and how it affected different generations, like the American influence. Yeah, Henry, no problem. Thanks for the super chat earlier as well. But yeah, so that Disney video probably tomorrow. Hopefully, I need to research it tonight and tomorrow. And yeah, that is everything. I'm going to go play some Horizon, I think, because I'm really enjoying that game at the moment, but I need to get into it a bit more. And yeah, thanks everyone for the stream. Thanks anyone who left a super chat. I'm going to be on ABC Free stream on Sunday, but if you don't follow me on Twitter and Instagram, you probably won't see me on that. But we're going to stream with it becoming a video in our minds, so hopefully you'll just see that anyway. I'm going to probably stream on Sunday afterwards anyway. Maybe play some games. But we'll see what I feel like, to be honest, because it's Easter. Do people have the day off on Monday? But yeah, thanks for the stream. Check out my content if you haven't watched it lately. And another stream on Sunday, hopefully, and then at least 2 more next week as well. So yeah, thank you everyone, and have a good Easter weekend as well.